say like toilet paper. It's not a day in the world that I don't pray for you, that you will get through your pain. Oh, don't let the weight of the world make you feel so precious. Ain't no way that a girl could all alone fight through this quest when filled with too much shame. Whoa, nothing more precious in this world, you're my limelight. In a room full of girls, I keep my eyes on you. In this evil world, I will be your protector. Up on top of the world, there will be no pressure. Place your weight on my shoulders, that's a noble gesture. Share your pain with me so we can grow together. And bring me to one knee, our souls will mold together. Girl, you know you're special. Ha. Whoa, yeah.
Boy, in the darkest of days, I give you all the pleasure, hoping to spark new ways to give you all your treasure. When demons all around, I will still trust you. Ain't afraid to hold you down if the world judge you. Could move away to any town, there will be no one around who can break the love we found. Oh baby, you in control is healing me, bringing sweeter memories. So complete, your love's profound. Oh baby,
whoa, nothing more precious in this world, you're my limelight. In a room full of girls, I keep my eyes on you. In this evil world, I will be your protector. Up on top of the world, there will be no pressure. Place your weight on my shoulders, that's a noble gesture. Share your pain with me so we can grow together. And bring me to one knee, our souls will mold together. Girl, you know you're special. Ha. Whoa, yeah.
Yo, what's going on, family?
Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight?
Glad you're here to join us for this week's edition of Marriage Monday. We're going to have a brief but very important discussion on blended families. Definitely a major topic, especially in the Black community. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right to it. I guess we could just start with some things to consider on each side when it comes to blended families, because if you have children coming into a relationship, your perspective on your children and someone else's perspective on your children will be completely different. So it's important that we discuss how to properly navigate that situation by first considering what are some of the thoughts that may come with it. So if you're a woman, what would be some of your concerns with dating a man with children?
Dating a man with children, if I was childless, my concerns would be his attention. You know, if he would be giving most of his attention to his children and not to me. And I know that may sound selfish, but that's just a normal, natural thing someone would think about. Like, he won't have too much time for me. His extra time will be given to his children. So that would be something to consider.
And for me, I always said I would never date a woman with children. It's very interesting that I ended up marrying her, ironically. So never say never. But with that said, the reasons that I said that was, one, it just didn't make sense. I always wanted to start my own family. And I think a lot of men think like that. Why would I want to take someone else's child and raise them? They don't look like me. They aren't going to represent me. When I can perfectly, with the same amount of energy, just put that time and resources into my own offspring, who I would naturally bond with. So that's the first and foremost, if you're all the way honest, I think, for me as a man. But also, like you said, the sharing of attention. One thing we always hear from single moms is, my kids come first. Why deal with that when you can deal with a woman who won't have that issue? Also, another thing that is usually something to consider is the fear of, especially if it's a girl, They could potentially say that you did something to them. Um, or even if they don't say it, the mother would rationally have that safety concern to always be watchful and protective of, and it's just not likely to be as much of a fear with your own child.
And then on top of all of those things you named, the the father or the mother of that child, we don't know who this person is. We don't know if they're sane or if they're crazy or if they got jealous issues or all the things. Yeah, that's another thing that I would be concerned with is, do you have a crazy baby mama?
So I guess to attack it from a solutionary standpoint, you got to first lay out those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So in regards to the baby mama, baby father situation, how do you solve that? How do you make it to where you could be more appealing on the dating market if you had a child? And how do you make it to where your baggage, so to speak, would not necessarily count you out if someone did decide to give you the opportunity?
I guess the best way you can go about that is making sure you have a good relationship and between the baby father, because if there's issues, you probably shouldn't be dating, because that's going to be brought up. That's going to affect your relationship, because that's going to affect your whole life. So you need to make sure that you can deal with those issues first, because that relationship is probably one of the most important relationships because you're of your children. So you definitely gonna have to deal with that, because you have to deal with this person until those children are 18. You have no choice in that matter.
And that's huge that you bring that up, because a lot of people look at us in these spaces as like the poster of hope for blended families, and they don't quite understand that we have a unique dynamic that kind of allowed us to bypass certain processes. Because had we been in a situation where I had to deal with the man coming to my house every weekend, or his input on how I run my house and what decisions we should and shouldn't decide on because his kids are involved, I don't know if we would have gotten married. With God's grace, I can't say not, but I think the appeal for me was that he was not involved. I think the appeal for me was that the children were very young. The son was 1 when I met him. Daughter was 4, if I'm not mistaken. By the time we married, we had been through 3 more years had passed. So for the son, I was pretty much the only father he knew. So I still had to raise them according to my standards, my values, and being the man in their life that determines their path. Had I had an outside source saying, no, go this way, go that way, while I'm saying go this way, that's a little hard. Mm-hmm. So that's something for people to consider, because it's easy to just look at what something is on paper and say, cool, I can have that, and you don't know what went into that.
Yeah. And then a lot of people, not to mention the baby father issue, but a lot of people have this, a lot of women have this mentality, like you said, their children come first, and they aren't willing to mold their children to have a man in their life. They expect the man to mold into your life, entering our family, rather than me and the kids entering his family. And I think that's the huge turnoff for men, because women naturally are like, okay, you have to fit in to my family.
Yes. And at that point, you're establishing a matriarch. And what that communicates to me as a man is that the household structure now is going to be the kids, you, then me. I'm at the bottom because you the one that set the guideline for the structure in the first place. So you're automatically above me, and you place the kids above you. That's a problem. From a biblical perspective, it should be man, wife, then children. And people get so riled up about that when they're single parents, but they don't understand that it's just common sense that when we're in the proper order, the kids are the most taken care of anyway. It goes without saying. But if you say that I'm supposed to come in and take all the responsibility with little authority, that's not enticing to me. And that's probably not going to last. So another major thing is discipline. Will the new husband really have the opportunity to be a father? And sometimes that's not all the way up to the mom. If there's a father involved, if me and you were not together, I ain't no man whipping my kids. And you know what? I'm gonna be fair. I'm not even gonna say that. But it would depend on the scenario. If we got a respectful understanding, and I don't want to, because I know what it's like. I don't know if I want to put that burden on somebody. But at the same time, it would depend on why we aren't together. If you just left me for another guy, there's a lot of things to consider. But with that said, I would want to be as involved as possible so he doesn't have to. Hey, if there's an issue, call me. Unfortunately, that's the situation that you sign up for when you're dealing with other families. And to be fair, I even gave that opportunity to the father of your children, and I was just like, "Hey, I don't know how that's supposed to work. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes and cancel you as a father. Anytime you want to come, do this and that, let me know, and I do whatever I got to do to accommodate for you." And he just was a bro. Bro was like, "I ain't coming out there." I'm like, all right, well, cool. So at that point, it got to the point where it was so dumb, and it made sense after some time of us being married for me to adopt the kids. So now we actually don't even feel like a blended family. Legally and on paper we are one, and that's a huge difference than the typical stepfather scenario where I don't have any rights to do anything regarding them, but I'm fully expected to take care of them. So it's so many things to consider. But for me, the main thing is I had to be able to run my house the way I want to, with nobody outside telling me I'm not.
And I respected that and I understood that because I was, and this is another thing that I see single moms, they're not understanding where they stand in the dating market or the marriage market, and they don't have appreciation for that man who is willing to step in and be that role. So they're not able to appreciate him and understand that okay, these aren't his kids. I can't expect him to love them like they his own. Like that's not something that comes just because you said so. It comes naturally with time. And even then, how far that love will extend as his own blood, I mean, we will never know. But at the end of the day, it's not fair to expect such high expectations for a man because of decisions that you made in your past. That you shouldn't put that type of burden on him. Like, don't push your children on him. Don't force some relationship. Let it come naturally.
Yeah, that was huge for me. That things were not forced. We were able to develop naturally. Because I'm not gonna love your kids like my own if I just met them. That's retarded. It's not even logical. Um, so we got to be realistic about our approach and our expectations for sure.
Mm. Yeah, and I will also advise women if you are a single mom and you do want to be married, you do want a man to be a part of your life, you should start training your children now, even if you don't have that prospect. Start training them to respect authority, to understand that men are, authoritative figures and that you shouldn't disrespect them. Show them and teach them not to come busting in your room whenever they feel like it, having your 7-year old still sleeping in the bed with you. Like, create boundaries so they understand this is mommy's space and mommy's time. So when a man comes in, they're not resentful towards the man because now all of a sudden you can't sleep with me. You need to knock before you enter. Now they're mad at the man because they're like, he changed everything. No, start before he gets there.
Good, because I'm not gonna put up that for long. Sharing my room with kids and they walking in. That's just because that's another thing that had you raised your kids, that wouldn't have to be something that you did.
Mm-hmm.
You could have established that order at a young age.
Yeah.
So those are the things, man. We got to make it as smooth as possible.
Yeah, it could be really uncomfortable for a man to have to, deal with that, having kids busting in his room, especially if he's never had any of his own. So it's like, and then you looking at him like, what's the problem? Get over it. You have to understand he's never had children. He doesn't understand. And the best bet is, like I said, is to train them before that man comes around. Train them respect your space.
And huge thing right here. I know over here at Family Values TV, we teach traditional family values. It is important to understand there is nothing traditional about a blended family. You will have to compromise. With that said, as much as we talk about being a housewife, man being the provider, there's a good chance that a man may not want to sign up for that if you're bringing kids to the table. And that is more than fair. That is more than fair. If you are bringing someone else's children, you're probably going to have to work to contribute to feeding them and maintaining their well-being. That we were not always in the situation we're in. Like I said, as years passed, I ended up adopting her kids. She had 6 of mine. It just made sense because daycare just would have, her money would have went to daycare anyway. We became a traditional values household. But initially, when she brought her children in, I was not about to fully provide for another man's kids. She took her butt to work. She paid for daycare. She paid for school clothes. She paid for school supplies and made it to where at least, because I'm paying for our shelter, as best possible, it would not be too much of a burden and impact on me and how I like to live my life prior. I would not have to fully scale back to take someone else's responsibility. And that's more than fair. I think we have to be realistic about that.
Yeah, I've talked to many single women who see my situation and they're like, yeah, I want to protect the provider as well. I want to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm like, you got to remember though, you're a single mom. You can't expect that. Now, if you get that, that is a blessing. That's why I appreciate my husband so much.
And that's the key. If you want to get that, you need to come with it. Heart of appreciation. Yeah. There's a lot of single moms out here that are very, and it blows my mind. They still think that they're the hot thing on the market, and they don't understand that you're lucky to even get a man to accept that situation. When he does, be appreciative. Be appreciative because you're not doing a favor to him. He's taking on a big responsibility and a huge sacrifice.
And then not to mention, I was appreciative already because even though I was working, it was no shit to kids. It wasn't like I was paying his bills or anything. Like he was still taking care of us. So, like you said, you got to come with the mindset of humility and being appreciative and understanding that what he's doing is a sacrifice.
Because if we're honest, you didn't make much.
Right.
Honestly, she was working on principle. It was just because I wanted to still be able to maintain the lifestyle I had because I didn't have no kids. Why should I go from 0 to 100 like that? That was my mindset. And I think most men will carry that mindset. There's some out here that are superheroes, kudos, but most men ain't going to do that. So if you're looking for a man to be a sponsor, take the load off your chest because you had kids with somebody else, you should look at it a little different. Understand I made a mistake and that's not nobody else's responsibility to save me. Let me go in and just be happy that somebody would even want to create a life with me. Because there was a time and historically where you were not even an option for marriage. Melina said, my children were 4 or 5 when my husband and I married. I knew respect was key. He absolutely had to be respected as the man of the house. At 13 and 16 now, so far, so good. Absolutely. That was key. We do not get here if I am not respected. Honestly, probably beyond the level that I would have if she was not a single mom. I'm being frank with you guys. It wouldn't happen. Because good.
And I think what's the biggest thing that's important about that, yes, it's respect from me, but also teaching your kids to respect them. Like when they come to you, Mr. Field said I couldn't do this, but Mom, I want to do this. You said I could. His word overrides me, and I explained that to them. Like this is his house. He takes care of you. You listen to him. Even if I said you could, I didn't know he didn't want you to do that. So you listen to him, and it took a little while and a little repeating that a few times for them to understand his word is the last say. And I think that is even more. They need to hear it from mommy. They need to hear you say that he's the head honcho in this house.
So good, so good.
Mhm.
I mean, we scratched the surface so far. Any major thing you think we leaving out?
Um, no. If y'all have any questions, let us know.
The
But
citizens comment, we definitely address this again, but we did want to breeze over this topic because we always get new people that come in that may not know what our dynamic was coming in, and we definitely don't want to give the wrong understanding or give any false sense of hope or paint everything as if it was pretty.
mhm,
There was a lot of compromise, sacrifice, and work that went into this union to make it function as fluidly as it does. And these are some of the keys that you just really have to go in knowing. You cannot force a man to be thwarted of his leadership role and the natural order that he deserves because you chose to have kids with someone else. It's not gonna work.
and I mean, you're not going to come in perfect or knowing it all. You get to know your man, and when he says he has a problem with something, I think it's important that you listen to that. Especially when it comes to the kids or the way that you're handling things in the house with them, in him, whatever. If he says this makes me uncomfortable, if he says that I don't like that you do this, I don't like that you have something to say when I'm speaking to the kids, all the things.
One,
If he says that, you need to listen. This is so important.
don't undermine him in front of the children
Yes.
because then you set the precedent. Because I hear women all the time, they'll say later on in life, the kids don't get along with him, they don't like him, they disrespect him. 9 times out of 10, it's your fault. It's the precedent you set for the household.
Yeah.
Because if you made respect mandatory for them, they would not do that.
Mhm.
But he needs your support in getting them. And that's why it might even be better usually for most people who have kids to get with other people with kids. But we're speaking of the extreme circumstances where that doesn't occur. And that's maybe not even so extreme. It may be more common than it's talked about in these spaces.
But to be fair, even the men with children, 9 times out of the 10, he doesn't have his children. So it's still the same principles.
And
He
he's
may
not expecting her to provide for them, definitely.
exactly.
Yeah.
So is he still saying these same principles? He'll probably have a little bit more grace and understanding, but at the end of the day, there still needs to be a level of respect and authority that he has. You can't expect a man to have a home and take care of you and your children because you're gonna expect him to protect your children too. What man wouldn't? But at the end of the day, how can you have that type of responsibility without authority? That's not fair.
And just to part on this example, you want to tell them the story about when we first made our.
Oh yeah,
We told the story before for our old time followers.
yeah. So it was finally time to move the children in, and I was preparing for them to come live with us. And I think maybe it was the day before we went to go get them. I was like, just to let you know, I'm gonna need like a week, just me and them. I miss them. So, if you feel a little neglected, it's just don't take it personally. It's
Yeah, they
just
had spent some time with her mother prior to them moving in, so she wanted to get some catch up time
yeah, I wanted some catch up time alone with them. Like,
in my house.
And this is one of those naive single mom moves. I didn't think it would be a big deal,
And
and
maybe it won't for some men, but I don't believe it. I think most men just aren't going to tell you. And that's what we talk about all the time here, that most men just stay quiet and they don't want to look insecure. So they let women run over them and do whatever. And they don't tell the truth. They just complain about it to everyone else.
yeah, that's not fair.
And I told the truth. And I looked her right in the eye and I said, that's not going to work. If you set in the tone like that, you and them might as well go ahead about your business already because we're going the wrong direction. If they come in here, I thought we're supposed to be becoming a family. If we're supposed to be becoming a family, how do we set that precedent by you taking a week off of the head of the household? Why we can't do stuff together? Why are you already creating a divide in my home before they walk through the door? If she was offended, if she got over it.
I was offended, and I didn't understand at first. And I'm like, I thought it was a joke at first. And I literally looked at his eyes and seen how serious he was. And I'm like, okay. I didn't even respond because I didn't want to respond with my emotions. So I cried, and I dealt with myself and was like, I want my kids and I want this man. So what am I going to do? I'm going to allow...
Figure it out, or you're going to take one of the others.
Right. Am I going to forget the man and choose the children? Or am I going to forget the children and choose the man? Or can I have both and just tend to what he needed? Because that week, I didn't really need it. It was just a guilt thing. They've been gone for so long. I want to give them all my undivided attention. That's my fault. Why do I have to make him pay for what I did? So
yeah, that's the main thing. Honest communication is key. Don't stay uncomfortable in any situation that is not making you feel valued in a blended family scenario, especially because there's already a lot of sacrifices being done. Don't go in with unnecessary, ridiculous expectations. He's not gonna love your kids like his own. That relationship has to be built. Probably not gonna want to be your provider right away unless he's just filthy rich. And if you want that space to be able to fall back into being a housewife and taking care of your kids, maybe start having his kids. You know, I hear single women say, yeah, I want somebody to sweep me off my feet and take care of me and my kids. You don't want to give him none. It makes no sense. Start having his.
I told my husband when he said he wanted kids, I'm like, yeah, I'll give you as many as you want. And he's like, oh, for real? Yeah.
Okay, well then we can work something out.
Yeah.
You know, we can make a deal. But we gotta be rational, reasonable, and understanding on all ends, and we still gotta maintain that order. And I would really suggest, if y'all don't take any other advice from me as a man, ladies, my kids come first. Take it out your head. I don't think you should ever say it. If that's the truth, then just do it. But that is not a marital order, and it does not display the mindset of a wife. And to hear that can be a shot in the heart that says, I'm gonna be last, and I don't even want to do it. Then there are other options out here that I won't have to be last for. And I'm gonna close on that.
Yeah, that was good.
Straight to the point. We kept it brief this time. We got a couple things that we got to take care of. But we appreciate y'all for joining. Let us know in the comments any questions, concerns you want us to address. We'll do a part 2 of this if there's enough demand for it. We got a big announcement coming for y'all this week, so stay tuned. If you're not on our IG page, you definitely want to get over there and be ready for that announcement. But with that said, love y'all. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Make sure y'all smash that like button, subscribe if you're not already. God bless.
Said I spent my whole life running from everything running, always running, every day running. I'm always running, this ain't running, but I keep running back to you. Say I spent my whole life running from everything running, always running, every day running. I'm always running, I'm this ain't running, but I keep running back to you. Can't believe I'm writing this song, your love has captured me. My lines ain't sink this deep since the girl that catfished me. I told you all my flaws and still you went to bat for me. Shorties tried me in these streets, you'd even scrap for me. But seem somewhere along the line, I swear our feelings have changed. Conversations getting slim, but we ain't chilling the same. Lord, ignite this passion till we can't remember our pain. Pray this match made in heaven will rekindle our flames. Said I spent my whole life running from everything running, always running, every day running. I'm always running, this ain't running, but I keep running back to you. Said I spent my whole life running from everything running, always running, every day running. I'm always running, I'm insane running, but I keep running back to you. Now that I have you, I feel so comfy. I say this to my demise. Struggling with you brought me the greatest days of our lives. Felt free to say I was broken. You see the pain in my eyes. Bless me with your free spirit and ease the shame in my mind. I can hide nothing from you. I surrender this game. 50-50 me, we both just out here giving the blame. If we could both just give 100, we could win at this thing. But life's a mess, we gotta die before we truly can reign. Said I spent my whole life running, from everything running, always running, every day running. I'm always running, this ain't running, but I keep running back to you. Said I spent my whole life running, from everything running, always running, every day running. I'm always running, I'm insane running, but I keep running back to you.
I keep running back to you.